My first Tuesday top 5 video. I break down my favorite top 5 X-Men characters. Let's go. Hello YouTube, X-Man here once again. And every Tuesday for the foreseeable future, I am going to be doing a Tuesday top 5. What that consists of is basically any top 5 that I come up with. Top 5 favorite movies, top 5 favorite Marvel villains, top 5 favorite DC heroes. The list possibilities are endless. But what I'm trying to do here is try to come up with something consistent for my channel, so that anybody that does, is kind enough to watch my content, thank you for doing so, knows that every single Tuesday, that they're going to get a video from me about something consistent. In this case, it's going to be the top 5 on a Tuesday. In this particular case, we're doing my favorite X-Men characters, specifically X-Men characters. So let's get into it. What a daunting task, because the X-Men, they're my favorite. So to choose only 5 was difficult, to say the least. 2 of the most quintessential books. These are facsimile copies, but X-Men #1 that introduced the original team, and of course the Giant Size X-Men GSX #1. Chris Claremont launched a whole new team. Epic, legendary, the launch of an era on both ends. But the task is at hand. I needed to pick 5, so I did. Here's #1, and this is in no particular order. So #1 is not better than #5. These are just my top 5 favorite, and I'll explain why. Here's #1. #1 on my list is Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, founder of the original X-Men team, Slim, nicknamed by Professor X in the very first X-Men issue. I love Cyclops because he is the true leader of the X-Men team. Later, when the 2 teams break up into different factions, it's Gold Team, Blue Team. He leads Blue Team, and one that's coming up leads Gold Team. And the X-Men '97 series did such a good job of reinvigorating the coolness, if you will, of Cyclops. In the Fox movies, and just even in the animated series, they painted Scott as this like kind of goofball, the guy that's in the way of Wolverine trying to hook up with Jean Grey, which was so I hated the whole thing, to say the least. Cyclops is, if you will, he is the Captain America of the X-Men team. So if you've watched the MCU and you've seen the likability of Captain America, whether you're a team Cap or team Iron Man as it pertains to the MCU, you guys know what I'm referring to as far as that Captain America that we all fell in love with Chris Evans, his version, his take on it. Loved it. I love it to this day. That's Scott Summers for the X-Men. He's not the most likable guy, and he shouldn't be, because he's the manager of a variety of personalities and mutant abilities, and yet he is the glue. He holds them all together. He is a true leader. I love me some Scott Summers, some Cyclops, and come on now. His optic blast, such a cool power. If you don't know, they are not lasers. They are concussive, meaning that it's like when he activates his power, it's like getting punched. It's not going to burn through you. It's concussive. And when he opens his eyes, later revealed when you as you're reading the comics, the actual optic blast comes from a different dimension. So when he opens his eyes, that beam is actually coming from a different dimension. It's a lot to get into. Maybe, hopefully, sparking some interest into reading more about Scott Summers. But that's my number one. Let's get into number two. Number two on my list is Aurora Monroe, aka Storm. As I alluded in my number one Cyclops take, when the X-Men broke up into two different teams, uh, it was Gold Team, Blue Team. Cyclops led the Blue Team, and Storm led the Gold Team. If you're interested in who went to which team, look it up. Part of the point of some of these videos is to spark some interest into getting into the comic world, reading into it, even if it's just the Marvel Wiki page. That's okay, as long as it's stirring conversation about the things that I love, especially the X-Men, pop culture in general. Aurora Monroe, her mother was a African princess, so she is royalty technically. She married a New Yorker, a photographer. So again, read into her. Total badass, controls the weather. Side note: it's actually my daughter Olivia's. That's her favorite. That's her favorite X-Men. Storm. She loves her some Storm. And come on now, who doesn't control the weather? And when she went through that Mohawk stage, it's just awesome. Another side note: she is a nudist. At least in the original Giant Size X Men, when she had her original costume, uh, Professor X had to delicately tell her, like, okay, well, if you're gonna come to New York and live with in the X Mansion, you have to put on some clothes, girl, because that the freestyle living thing you're doing is probably not gonna fly too well. But yeah, so that's a thing. This is why sometimes I have issue with Jim Lee's artistic version of Storm, where he has her covered up from head to toe in silver. Iconic, don't get me wrong. It's awesome costume, but I've always had issue with like that. Okay, but it doesn't fit her. If you know who Storm is, she has a whole claustrophobic thing to her character, so it wouldn't make sense to be covered from head to toe like that in that silver outfit, which is why she has a very revealing outfit in her original debut. But that's once again, I'm getting a little bit too deep into it just to cover the top five. But that's my number two. Love me some Storm. Let's get into number three. Number three is Nightcrawler. Kurt Wagner, born a German, looks like a demon. He has the ability to transport himself. He's a teleporter. Now, why is he my number three? Well, one, it's my wife's favorite X-Men, but that's not why. I just wanted to point that out. Great pick in my opinion, on her part. But it's Chris Claremont has been interviewed about uh, that character that he created, and I love the reason and his take on it. It's because you always have good guys looking like good guys being good guys, and you have bad guys looking like bad guys being bad guys. Well, what if we kind of turn that on its head, and he looks like a demon, but he is like the most he's the nicest. I mean, he's Catholic. Just he is the most Christian Catholic, very religious, very pious, very nice. He's the nicest of all the X-Men. He's the most accepting, and yet he looks the way he does. So as you can imagine, he is consistently, you know, just attacked, being, you know, he's a target, because when you look like that, it causes, you know, that prejudice. They just automatic judge a book by its cover, and the message there is, it's a beautiful message. You want to talk about like a quintessential don't judge a book by its cover? Well, there it is in the X-Men comics. Nightcrawler is a version of that message. Love me some Nightcrawler, and his power is just, you know, super cool. Bamf, bamf, bamf. If you don't read comics, that's the sound that they use when he teleports. BAMF, followed by a little cloud. Bamf. And every time he does that, sometimes it's not captured, whether it's in a movie or in the animated series. That little cloud that you see actually smells like sulfur. So one thing that sometimes gets missed is the other characters complaining about that, because it does happen in the comics. Are like, can you stop? Like, dude, you stink the place up, man. Every time you do that. So even, you know, even then he has to be careful about how he uses his powers, just out of a courtesy. It's almost like farting in public, I suppose. And you know, so it's kind of a cool little side thing. But yeah, Bamf. Nightcrawler's number 3. Let's go to the next one. Fourth on my list of X-Men is Rogue. Anna Marie, last name kind of unknown. Um, I love her story. Her mutant ability is, you know, she can absorb powers. So if she touches you, she will absorb your life force. If you're not a mutant and you don't have any abilities, well, then she is literally draining your life and can kill you very quickly. If you are a mutant and she touches you, she can absorb your mutant ability. She, her ability to fly was a result of that. That's a whole other story. Once again, as a reminder, some of these videos are to entice reading and looking into these things. But this is a fun fact. The writer Chris Claremont, who in my opinion is a genius, he launched the new X-Men, Giant Size X-Men #1, a great storyteller, amazing writer. When he came up with the concept of Rogue, she is from Mississippi. He told the artist, well, I'm picturing a Grace Jones type of person. So, you know, that's the inspiration. Can you, you know, draw her similar to Grace Jones? If you're not familiar with Grace Jones, she was a complete badass in Conan the Barbarian. Yes, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, way back in the 80s. And well, the artist at the time had no idea who Grace Jones was. You know, she was a African American actress, and he had no idea who that was. So, you know, this is not the age of the internet, so it's not like he could just willy nilly look her up. So he drew her the way he did, um, and that's why we have that rendition. Chris Claremont saw it and said, "That's not what I. Yeah, whatever. Okay, let's just go. Let's publish it." It was just as simple as that. You know, deadlines. They have to just move forward, keep going, and but it's kind of cool that, you know, she. There's a lot of talk about you know, the casting for the new X-Men movie, and that they might make Rogue a black character. And I think it's kind of meta, just because like I know that story, the behind the scenes, if you will. I don't know. I just think that would be that would be kind of a cool thing, because that was the original intent. But yeah, she is a tragic character. The fact that she cannot have human interaction, badass, but at the same time, you know, with that power comes the consequence of not being able to have any type of like connection with anybody. I like her because she is that. She's a paradox where it's like she can't touch, or maybe paradox, I'm not using that the right way, but That is just such a sad and tragic thing, and yet it also makes her one of the most powerful mutants in the X-Men team. So it's like a whole like give and take. Like what yeah, like the grass is greener on the other side of the fence type of thing. But that's why she is one of my favorite characters in the X-Men team. Let's move on to number 5, the last one. Number 5, I know I said that these were no particular order. Right, number 1 is not less important than number 5, at least in my opinion. But Scott Summers is still going to be my number 1. But this one, just I don't know how to not show a bias to this character. I'm talking about Jean Grey, specifically as she turns into the Phoenix and then later Dark Phoenix. One of the, not just one of the best X-Men stories ever told, one of the best Marvel comics storyline ever told. The Phoenix Saga, which goes into the Dark Phoenix Saga. If you haven't read it, please go read it. If you're a newbie to this thing, welcome. We welcome you. And you just don't know where to start, what to do, where to go. There you go. Walk into your local comic book shop, ask them, I am interested in reading the Phoenix Saga in the X-Men run by Chris Claremont. Those guys will know exactly where to point you to. Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix. That storyline is legendary. So much emotion was put into this. I mean, it is an emotional roller coaster. It's so good. I mean, through this Phoenix Saga run, you get so much. There's so much that's packed into this run that I can't even get into it right now. But Jean Grey, Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, easily, she should be in everybody's top 5, not just mutant, not just X-Men or mutant list, but just Marvel characters. She should always be in the top 5. Yeah, it's an opinion. I get that, but she is definitely on my top 5. That's it for my first Tuesday top 5 video. As always, collect what you love what you collect. I'll see you guys in the next one.